In the meantime, the National Working Committee of the Labour Party has questioned the suspension of its national chairman, Julius Abure, by the Edo State chapter of the party. The party, in a statement signed by the National Publicity Secretary, Abure, described the suspension as illegal and an exercise in futility. The statement says suspension contravenes the provisions of the party's constitution, which states that a chairman of the party can only be suspended by 2/3 member of the party in a convention. Prof. Abure Adeniyi is joining us to look at this lingering crisis in the Labour Party, and the party will be able to survive or surmount the storm ahead of its next general elections. Glad to have you join us.
Thank you.
The National Executive is saying that the chairman of the state does not have the capacity or authority according to its constitution, that the way its constitution is holds, unlike other parties, he cannot be suspended by the word. But the chairman of Edo State Labour Party says that they have the capacity. What do you make of this brewing crisis in the Labour Party?
Well, I think indeed we need to elevate the argument a little bit, so that we won't be pigeonholed into the shenanigan of the average political party. Most of them are often greeted by storms like this, some kind of back and forth that sometimes you actually find it very difficult to place. Oftentimes they are steeped in crisis, different kinds of crises, and it comes especially when a particular figure is not liked by some people. Some of that persons might like him, but of course it's only about the struggle for power, and that's why internal power in any case, and that's why we often raise questions about the problematics or the inability of the political parties to engender strong internal democracy. And that's what we're probably witnessing in Labour Party now. We have seen variants of it in the PDP. It's still continuing. Sections of it is also happening in the APC, and I'm not surprised that even the Labour Party is also witnessing its own. But what appears shocking for me is that the Labour Party is a party that gained a lot of ground on account of the credibility, the reputation, the panache and the savviness of Peter Obi in the last presidential election, with the support of Senator Dati Baba Ahmed. So one would have expected that, their preoccupation, that they would have been more preoccupied with growing that, the credibility, the gains from the election, to become a strong party, to present, that you can see as a credible, vibrant, robust opposition to the ruling party in the build-up to the next general election, and of course for them to continue to make their mark, to prepare for the many obstacles election that is ahead of us. Edo election is not too far from now, and of course Ondo 2 is also around the corner. One would have thought that that's what should preoccupy them, and not, being distracted by internal wranglings that sometimes we find very difficult to place. Yes, I recognize the fact that you are trying to be specific, pointing at one thing or the other. When political parties want to get into crisis, they can pick on it. It could just be that they may just look at you and say, I don't like the braces you are wearing. And that could be the reason why they want to start fighting you. That's the nature of political parties. But I think we need to just try to begin to look at the bigger picture, the philosophy of party struggle, party configuration, and examine why is it that we're always having strife within this political party, such that in the case of the Labour Party, we do not expect them to be giving problem, because it is now they are putting their presidential candidate, a very credible Nigerian for that matter, in a very difficult situation, alongside Senator Dati. So why can't they just come together, and engender peace, for the good of their group, as the case could be, so that the ultimate goal of capturing power can be realized?
Let me take you up on that, on what you said about not allowing this to happen in political parties, and then go further and ask you, what is the way out? How do you stop this kind of internal wranglings from dominating the party. I'll also ask you, I mean, after that, they have gained ground in the last elections. Do you think this will erode the mileage they've been able to cover?
That's a very tricky one, because the elections, general elections, are still far from now. And of course, if you look at how they gained ground because only an individual came into their midst. You know, they were celebratory about it, rightly so. And that individual made a mark, was remarkable, you know. And you cannot actually rule it out. That individual, if they frustrate him, what if he chooses to leave for another party? You know, Nigerians, you know, celebrated Peter Obi, not necessarily because of Labour Party, but because of his personality. And of course, that personality, that capital, that social and political capital can also be transported into another political party if they are not going to allow him and his running mates, you know, Senator Dati, you know, to continue on their platform. And that's why we're saying that this wrangling at the end of the day might just be needless. And you begin to wonder, like you rightly asked, that why are they permanently in crisis? You know, is it about a personality? You know, why are they focused on just a personality at the expense of the bigger picture, the ultimate goal of capturing political power? You know, maybe through first at the level of governorship, or maybe some more senatorial seats if there are by-elections, or House of Representative seats, you know, but governorship, the one that is practically ahead of us now, you know, in advance of the general election, so that, yes, they went close. Nobody believed that they could come, despite the controversy, that they could perform as much as they did in the last election, but they did, and which, you know, just tells us that it's a viable alternative, and anything can happen, you know, in the political chessboard, which is often unpredictable. And there's nothing else to say other than to continue to call for that the political parties should be much more concerned about strengthening their internal crisis resolution mechanism, because if you cannot strengthen it, if you cannot make it sustainable, stable, then you know, your ability, you know, to govern, if you capture power, it's also suspect, you know. And Labour Party, considering what Labour stands for, is the last kind of party that we expect to see a continuing irresolvable crisis like this one.
What should the man...
Or seemingly irresolvable crisis.
Yes, what should the man in the center of in the eye of the storm, Abure, should be doing now?
Okay.
And what about the man you talked about, their candidate, Peter Obi, in the last elections? I don't think he has said anything as yet.
Yeah, I think I think they have been put in a very difficult position. Mr. Peter Obi, particularly the presidential candidate, you know, because there are so many sides, so many conflicting sides, and all the sides are also very critical. They probably played a significant role in the last election. And of course, as a leader, you know, leadership can sometimes be a thankless job, you know, and you do not, if you take any decision that seems supportive of one section, the other section will feel, you know, slighted, disappointed, you know. So it requires a lot of tact, and so if he's not responding immediately, we'll probably not want to blame him. Perhaps he wants to study the situation very well before they respond, you know. But of course, I'm very sure that they know what to do, you know, and maybe at the right time they will intervene. But this
is not the first time Abure is having
of
this.
Course,
So why does it keep coming up? And what do you make of the allegations? High-handedness, anti-party activities, and then fraud. I mean,
without necessarily speaking for him, you know, if you don't like somebody, it's very easy to just come up with a slew of allegations.
A question of calling a dog a bad name.
You can, but I'm not saying that maybe
they may not be right or wrong,
but it can happen. You know, it's just, and of course, it's even more so in a political environment where things are very fluid. You know, this is an institution that is still very weak. You know, it's not sure-footed yet. So all these flip-flops, you know, can still be attributed to that space. You know, so it's even much easier, you know, for you to throw darts at any individual, you know, as much as you want to do it. You know, it's often it depends on how creative you are, how mischievous you can be in that regard. You know, but sometimes, yeah, sometimes you also see some of these allegations not lasting long. You know, oftentimes after those kind of allegations, you see them coming together again, reconciliation. You know, as if they never fought before.
No permanent enemies.
Yeah, that is also the interest. As if they have never been at loggerheads before. But overall, it's just good. It's going to be good for the polity, good for the party if they can get this monkey out of their back.
Is it a question of the fact that it's men that are running these parties, like they said in circles, from different avenues that didn't have a question of ideology, not having a particular ideology, you know, from here, there, different parties. Is this the reason that you keep having these things reoccur now and then?
No, again, you know, we have said it severally that political parties are not really grounded in any strong ideology, that they are actually special purpose vehicles. But the one that even seems closest to a kind of ideology, maybe that is sympathetic to the plight of the workers, is the Labour Party. That's the one you can easily even associate a kind of ideology with, you know. But here again, sometimes we do not expect a party that is people-centric, that tends to be supportive of workers, you know, to be in perpetual crisis because they have a bigger task ahead. And of course, what is that task, you know, to deal with, I mean, to wrestle power from their supposed oppressors, you know, for their supposed oppressors. But here we are. Again, there's something I like to also say sometimes. I want to believe that we are in a growing process. You know, it's a process that is still gestating. Our democracy is 24, 25 years old. Yes, we've done well in terms of length, you know, but character, we have to continue to work on it, you know, and we have to keep hope alive. That sometime soon we will realize that we should prioritize, you know, others as against the self, you know, because if we prioritize others as against the self, you know, it will consciously or unconsciously grow the institutions of the political parties, and you know, and they can become strong pillars, you know, of the democratic experiment, as the case could be.
Would you expect that the other parties, APC, PDP, will ride on this crisis that Labour is undergoing to, I mean, gain some real advantage over them, both in Edo State and nationally?
Well, they also have their own crisis. You know, PDP is still unsettled, you know, and of course, those days we used to say it before in the build-up to the 2023 presidential election, we could describe PDP as a behemoth, but not anymore. You know, it's been fractured, and we also just hope that they will continue they can resolve it so that they can be good or a good opposition,
which they have been accused of not playing.
That's right. And if you remember the history of the party, very illustrious history, you do not want that history to be rubbished just like that, you know. So for anything else, you just want them to remain as a credible opposition, and you do not know what will happen in the future. And APC too, yes, they are in power, but they have their own concerns as well. You know, raging crisis of confidence, you know, on power sharing of position. Some people are disgruntled. You know, we may not see the outcome yet, but just wait until another 1 or 2 years. And of course, if the cracks are not properly papered, if they are not properly covered, you see them coming out. You know, people will be realigning. You know, expressing disappointment, frustrations, how they've been neglected. So all these things will continue, you know, in the political chessboard, you know, but at the end of the day, we need them all to understand that, you know, they exist, they are playing politics for the greater good of the people. You know, politics is supposed to be for the acquisition of power, right? You know, for you to serve the people. You know, the position of the people or the place of the people should not be compromised.
So people can get the dividends of democracy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Professor Abure Adeniyi, there
No
on the crisis in the Labour Party.